Iowa versus Florida. Yes, people are moving to Iowa from Florida every single day. And today we're going to discuss why that is. Now, if you have lived in Iowa or the Midwest, you probably hear people moving the other direction all the time because people want to get to that warmer weather during the winter, kind of like what we're having right now. But you don't hear a lot about people moving from Florida to Iowa. And this video was really spurred on by a couple of calls that I just recently got of clients moving from Florida up to Iowa. And I'm going to tell you exactly why they made that decision and a few other things that I've heard from other people. So what is the number one reason that people are trying to make that move from Florida into Iowa? Well, that number one reason, hands down, is really the cost of living. In Iowa, it is very affordable to live here. We're below the national average on most things like groceries, gas, housing. That's the biggest one. You can still get a home here for around $200,000, and that's almost unheard of down in Florida. That is the biggest driver for people wanting to move from Florida to Iowa, is that cost of living and affordability that you really don't get down in Florida. So it's a huge deal, and people are moving up here in droves to get a piece of that living cost because, as we all know, cost of living everywhere has increased substantially, and people are starting to feel that. So moving from Florida to Iowa, well, that's the main driver as to why people want to make that move. Now, cost of living is the main driver for people moving from Florida into Iowa, but it's not the only reason. And ironically enough, the reason that people move from Iowa down to Florida is because of the weather, but the reverse is actually also true. People are moving to Iowa because of the weather. They want the four seasons. They want the snow. They want that colder weather, and Iowa has it all. So we have spring, summer, fall, and winter. Yes, the spring we get a lot of rain. It's probably pretty similar to the amount of rain that you'll get down in Florida, but maybe it's just not as intense, and people really like that. And then you get into the summer, so you get the aspect of Florida where you get the heat. Now again, it's not as intense as Florida heat and humidity, but we still do get those hot summers and very humid weather. The main driver of our humidity around here is all the agriculture that we have around. All the corn, all the beans is emitting liquid up into the air and is causing a lot of humidity. So we still get those hot and humid temperatures, hot and humid summer nights. So it's a big thing. If you still like that Florida piece of weather, we still get it here. And then we get the awesome falls, get the colors coming in, those cooler time weather, and it's actually my favorite time of year overall, and that's a big reason that people like it. And then you get the winter, of course. Now, the winter for me isn't my favorite season, but it's definitely not my least favorite. For me, summer is my least favorite because I hate hot and humid. So if I was living in Florida, I may be looking at a place like Iowa because I hate that hot and humid. And you know, winter, yes, we get the snow. This year has been a kind of a crazy year with record amounts of snow and super cold temperatures, but it's not like this every single year. So people are also moving from Florida to Iowa, not just because of the weather, but because of the change of seasons. Down in Florida, it's pretty much hot and humid all the time, but here we get the changing of the seasons, and you can really feel the differences no matter what the season is going on. Now, another reason that the folks that just called me tell me they're moving from Florida to Iowa is because of people, and specifically the population. It's apparently becoming a little too crowded down in Florida, and people want to get away from that. And this is specifically talking about the cities down there because it's very congested and there's a lot of people. Here in Iowa, the entire state is about 3 million people, which really isn't that much when you think about the entire area of the state of Iowa. I believe it's bigger by landmass than Florida is. Don't quote me on that. But 3 million people versus an Orlando or a Cape Canaveral or any of those cities down there, you're probably looking at a lot less crowding than you do get in Iowa. So it's a big reason that people want to move here is to get away from the crowds that you see down in Florida. And just like I said, that is a reason that these people that called me just this week are telling me they want to get out of Florida. And speaking of that, I help people move to the state of Iowa all the time, and I love helping people make that decision to move here. So if you have questions, my number is popping up down below. I am a licensed realtor here in the state of Iowa, and I'd love to help you find that perfect place to call home when moving to Iowa. So give me a call. Now, right along with the less population of Iowa, another reason that gets stated that people want to move to Iowa is maybe the more simpler life that we have here, or at least the perception of a simpler life. We don't have a ton of big cities. You got Des Moines, you got Davenport, which is where I'm at right now. You have Council Bluffs, and that's about it. You know, Cedar Rapids might be thrown in there as well. But overall, most of Iowans are out in rural areas. Very simple life. You can go out, farm, do whatever you need to do, and that's really appealing in this day and age for a lot of folks. For whatever reason, they don't want that hustle and grind that you see in these bigger cities, and that's a big reason that people are flocking to Iowa, because we have that here in the state and people are really, really liking it. So if that's something that you like, well, it might be the place for you to move to. Now, it may not look like it right now, but we don't have a ton of natural disasters here in the state of Iowa. Yes, we get snowstorms like this. Yes, we get tornadoes. But the thing about it is it's usually very localized, and especially tornadoes, it doesn't take up a huge swath of land and potential issues with natural disasters. And that's a reason that people like the state versus Florida, where you get hit by natural disasters, it seems like constantly. You get the hurricanes, which covers an entire state, and it's very devastating with the water coming in, the high winds, everything that goes along with that, evacuations, and it's just not something that we have to deal with too much here in the state of Iowa, and people really find that appealing because yes, we have tornadoes. It sounds super scary, but I've lived here my entire life and I have never actually seen a tornado. So not that they don't happen, but they're kind of a rare occurrence, and when they do happen, it is on a very localized basis and it doesn't cover huge swaths of area. So it is something to think about because we don't have a lot of natural disasters in the area. So your home is usually more protected, your family is usually more protected from natural disasters right here in the state of Iowa, and people, like I said, find that super appealing. Now this next one is a little bit interesting, and it's interesting because of what we don't have. And what that is here in the state of Iowa is our wildlife. Our wildlife, there really isn't a whole lot that can kill you. Yes, we do have a few, but they're kind of few and far between. Versus Florida, you have a lot of things that kind of want to kill you. Crocodiles or alligators. I'm not sure which one it is down in Florida. Let me know down in the comments which one it is down there, because I'm really not sure. But we don't have things like that. We don't have venomous snakes for the most part. Yes, we do have him very few and far between, but overall, you can go out into nature and not really worry too much about risking your life or getting close to the edge of a pond for an alligator or a crocodile. Again, I don't know which one it is. You'll have to let me know, but it's a super cool thing right here in the state. Is it something that people have noted they moved here for? No, not necessarily, but it is a pro that I thought about when I go down and visit Florida on vacation versus up here. We really have not a lot to worry about when it comes to the wildlife. Now, we talked about the population differences in Florida versus Iowa, and as a part of that, you get a lot of differences in the traffic, and that is a reason that people have told me they like to move here, because the traffic is pretty minimal. Yes, we have a few bigger cities, Cedar Rapids, Davenport, Des Moines, Council Bluffs, but even if you're traveling through these at rush hour, typically you're not at a standstill, you're constantly moving, and everywhere else the traffic is very, very minimal. I'm standing here at rush hour. Off to my right is a very busy street in Iowa terms, but traffic is flowing just perfectly, and that is typically what we see a lot of here in the state, because less people means less cars, and our infrastructure is fairly good to handle the traffic that we do have. So it's a cool benefit of moving to the state is you don't have to deal with as much traffic. But the one thing I will say about traffic is if you're out in the country and it's harvest time, be ready to have to deal with a slower tractor, but it's very minimal because you can get around those tractors pretty quickly. Now, another reason that people cite as wanting to move from Florida to Iowa is the sense of community that you get here in the state. You may not know all of your neighbors, but you're gonna feel that community when you move here. It's very tight knit and people help each other out. And in this day and age, I think that is a super missing piece of our society. And in Iowa, you get that middle America community that you talk about, you hear about from the past. We still have it here in the state. The people are super, super friendly. Yes, we are known as Iowa nice, and it's very true. You'll get to know your neighbors, and it's a super, super awesome thing to be a part of. And it's a reason that people want to move here, because a lot of other places like Florida, you really don't have that anymore. And it's a little bit sad to see that, but it's true. Now, it may be surprising that people are moving from Florida to Iowa, but it's absolutely true. And if that's you, give me a call, give me a text. I'd love to help you on your move to the state of Iowa. And if you're not from Florida and you're still thinking about moving to Iowa, I'd love to help you as well. So my number is down below. But if you just want to watch another video about what it's like to live in the state of Iowa, well, check it out right here.